Animals, from the Latin word animalis, meaning having breath, having soul, or living being. All living beings on Earth are sentient life forms and are either unicellular or multicellular organisms. Organisms are classified into different kingdoms. Fungi, plants, and animals make up the multicellular kingdoms, but have noticeable differences from one another. Animals are by far the most complex multicellular organisms on Earth. Unlike plants and fungi, which are immobile, animals are motile, develop highly sophisticated cognitive abilities, and experience a wide range of emotions. Nothing could be more obvious than observing the behaviors of a human and non-human animal. However, us humans are a little more difficult to understand. When we humans think of animals, we don't often recognize humanity as part of the animal kingdom, despite being categorized as mammals ourselves, based on biological attributes. The word mammal is also from the Latin mammalia, meaning of the breast or mama, since all mammals suckle from their mothers after birth and throughout their infancy. But even prior to our births, while we grow in our mother's wombs, during the early embryonic period, almost every embryo of every vertebrate animal, whether they be a mammal, bird, reptile, or fish, look identical. This is known as the phylotypic stage, and it basically shows how all animals are alike and develop similarly, which further indicates we're all related and have common ancestry. And regardless of how we evolved to have vastly different anatomies and traits, the basic plan for our beginning remains homogeneous. For example, both human and fish embryos have gill slits. In fish, they develop into gills, but in humans, they disappear prior to our births. Once we animals enter the world, our development, both physically and mentally, accelerate and evolve, further preparing us for life. This is also where animals supersede all other organisms, in particular when it comes to adapting to our environments. When we observe nature, we can see how all animals play a vital role in the sustainability of Earth's many ecosystems. As plants are immobile, many plant species rely highly on animals to help them pollinate, spread their seeds, and return nutrients back to the soil. Wildlife, meaning non-domesticated animals, are considered a part of nature. We often believe Mother Nature is all nurturing, stress-free, and peaceful. But nature can be as equally vicious and violent. Be that as it may, there is a reason and necessity for this brutality. All healthy ecosystems must have a substantial proportion of predatory animals to regulate the populations of other species, in addition to themselves, in order to sustain ecological equilibrium. This delicate balance has been maintained by the inherent traits of all native species on Earth for millions of years. Considering humans are also animals, we too are driven by the natural instincts to procreate and self-preserve. Just as all animals need oxygen to breathe, habitats and shelters to live in, and water to drink, all animals must also eat other organisms in order to live, whether they be plants or other animals. And in rare extreme survival situations, cannibalism is the only option. Though nutritional requirements vary according to different animal species, the eating habits of all animals in nature belong to food webs, which are the cycling of energy and nutrients within an ecosystem. So where does the human animal fit into these food webs? Now humans can survive as either carnivores, omnivores, or herbivores? Which diet is the most optimum or most practical for humans has sparked widespread controversy around the world recently due to health, environmental, and ethical issues. The truth is, the human anatomy is not biologically equipped to hunt and devour prey like predatory animals in nature, nor is the stench and taste of raw flesh and blood appeasing to humans. Hence the reason humans use weapons, tools, and cooking methods and procedures. However, either an omnivorous or herbivorous diet can be healthy if practiced correctly. But in modern societies, animal-based nutrition is absolutely unnecessary. Regardless, we can agree that the human animal has evolved to such an extent that we have disconnected ourselves from the earth. Almost all modern humans do not live by the laws of nature. Instead, we alter nature to better suit our enjoyments and economic interests more than our actual needs, and domesticating both plants and animals became the greatest example of this. The development of agriculture is what spawned our earliest civilizations, and the commodification of animals is how capitalism originated. The word capital itself derives from the Latin capit, meaning head, as in head of cattle known as caps. Throughout history, humans have dominated every animal on the planet, including our own species, and found ways to exploit many of them in one way or another for pleasure and profit. Which human and non-human animals we choose to exploit and or kill relies solely on one thing: how much value we give them. It's fair to assume that we value human and non-human animals that are family and friends more than others due to the social and emotional bonds we share with them. In fact, the emotional connections humans have with their own friends and relatives are so strong that an individual would risk and even sacrifice their own life in order to protect and save them. This level of love and sympathy is not limited to the human animal though, since all animals experience the same emotions. The word emotion derives from the Latin emovere, basically meaning to move out or move away. When we think of emotions, we often assume they are mental states or feelings generated in the brain. But because there is continuous communications between our brains and the rest of our bodies, emotions are actually whole body experiences. Every animal has some form of nervous system which enables them to experience emotions. Nociception, originating from the Latin nocere, meaning to harm or hurt, is the sensory nervous system's process of encoding noxious stimuli, which allows an organism to receive a painful stimulus, convert it into a molecular signal, then recognize and characterize the signal in order to trigger an appropriate defense response. Unlike animals, plants do not have brains or nervous systems, and therefore they do not have emotions or reasoning capabilities. They are, however, sentient life forms because they do have tropic and nastic responses to stimuli, but it's a totally different world compared to animals, just as we have an entirely different universe compared to microorganisms. We animals prefer comfort and will pursue pleasures, since it creates positive emotions. But we will flee from what will, or what could cause discomfort and pain, which are negative emotions. The ability to feel pain helps us to protect our bodies. Therefore, emotions are necessary in order to survive and live healthy. Considering the fact that all animals share the same emotions, maybe the only difference between human and non-human animals has more to do with consciousness rather than our anatomies. However, humans do not have the largest brains in the animal kingdom, nor do we have the most neurons, and we are not the only species that develop language and culture. So how do we actually know how conscious other animals are? Well, We really don't know exactly. But we do know every animal has an individual sense of awareness and personality. And we can also witness and comprehend the physical suffering and negative emotions animals experience. So why do we inflict pain and suffering on them when it is not necessary for our survival or health? Why do we force them into slavery when we believe slavery is wrong? Why do we steal from them when we believe theft is wrong? Why do we imprison them when they have committed no crime? Why do we deny them the fair chance at life when we ourselves have the right and the privilege to experience ours? Maybe we need to pay more attention to what animals are doing and try to view the world through their eyes. Maybe there isn't that much that makes us uniquely human. Maybe our ability to consider animals' feelings and our compassion to protect them from cruelty is our best and most uniquely human characteristic. And perhaps one day we will treat them not as slaves or products, but as fellow earthlings that deserve to be free from our exploitation and inhumanity.